Let's be real. The dream of owning one whole Bitcoin feels, well, pretty much out of reach for most of us these days. But what if the goal that could actually change your financial future isn't one whole Bitcoin, but just a tiny fraction of it? We're going to break down why zero point 0.1 Bitcoin is quickly becoming the new standard for serious savers. And, more importantly, how this little shift in your thinking can protect you from making some of the biggest mistakes in crypto.
I mean, you've seen this, right? You're scrolling, you see these wild stories, you glance at Bitcoin's price, and that little feeling just starts to creep in. Man, I've missed the boat. And that feeling of being late, that's what can push you to chase the next cheap lottery ticket, a gamble that, more often than not, leads you right into a very dangerous trap.
So let's get into it. Why does our brain push us towards these crazy long shots instead of a much sounder strategy? Well, it turns out there's a really powerful psychological reason for this. It's a cognitive bias that preys on our intuition, and it can be the very thing that keeps you from building real, lasting wealth.
It's called unit bias. And basically, this is that little voice in your head that says owning millions of something worthless feels way better than owning a tiny piece of something incredibly valuable. Our brains just love big, round numbers, even when the math is screaming at us that it's a terrible, terrible idea.
Okay, check this out. This is the bias in action. For $500, you could own 0.0073 Bitcoin. It looks pathetic, doesn't it? It feels insignificant, almost like a failure. Or, for that same $500, you could own over 1.6 million of some meme token. All of a sudden, you feel like a whale, right? You feel like a crypto king. Your brain gets a rush from that huge number, even though both sides are worth the exact same amount of money.
But here's the brutal truth. That satisfying feeling of owning millions of tokens, it almost always ends in disaster. The data is pretty clear on this. Over a full market cycle, nearly all of these alternative coins get absolutely demolished by Bitcoin, with most of them going straight to zero.
And look, this bias can fool anyone. I mean, anyone. Gene Simmons, the rock star from Kiss, worth $400 million, was asked why he bought Dogecoin instead of Bitcoin. And his reason? Pure, uncut unit bias. He said, "I could own more of them. If this trap can fool a multimillionaire, you can bet it can fool the rest of us."
And this isn't just some weird psychological quirk. It has a real, painful financial cost. So let's take a hypothetical person, Alex. He puts $5,000 into a meme coin, and for a week, he feels like a genius. But just a few months later, his investment is decimated. If he had just ignored that urge and bought Bitcoin instead, he would have been on a path towards some really significant gains. Unit bias doesn't just cost you money, it costs you opportunity.
All right, so let's pivot away from psychology and get into the cold, hard math. This is where that 0.1 Bitcoin goal really starts to make a powerful amount of sense. The entire argument here rests on one single, unchangeable concept: absolute scarcity. This number right here, it's non-negotiable. It's written into the code. There will never, ever be more than 21 million Bitcoin. Unlike national currencies, which can be printed into oblivion, Bitcoin's supply is absolutely 100% finite. That's it. And it gets even scarcer. From that 21 million, we have to subtract the coins that are just gone for good. You've heard the stories, right? The guy who threw out a hard drive with 8,000 Bitcoin on it, now buried under a mountain of trash. Or the programmer with just 2 password guesses left before he loses $480 million. These stories are real, and every single one of them permanently reduces the available supply for everyone else.
So, when you do the math, when you take the remaining supply and divide it by the 8 billion people on this planet, this is what you get. The fair share for every single person is this tiny, tiny fraction. Suddenly, owning a fraction doesn't seem so small anymore, does it? Hitting that 0.1 Bitcoin target, it puts you in a mathematically exclusive club. You would hold nearly 50 times the global average. You see, this isn't about getting rich overnight. This is about securing a significant share of a provably scarce global asset. It's a completely different game.
Pursuing this goal isn't just a financial strategy. It actually fundamentally changes how you think about money. It shifts you away from that gambler's mindset and slowly turns you into a disciplined, long-term saver.
This journey forces you to develop a powerful idea called low time preference. It's a fancy term for a simple concept, valuing your future self more than your right now self. It's the ability to delay gratification for a much better future. Instead of thinking about what you can buy today, you start thinking in terms of decades.
And once you have some skin in the game, trust me, the world looks different.
All these abstract economic ideas suddenly become very, very real. You start questioning every single purchase. That $200 dinner isn't just dinner anymore. It's a piece of a Bitcoin you could have saved for your future. It forces you to become more financially literate.
Okay, so the big question, how do you actually do it? The price seems intimidating, I get it, but the path to 0.1 Bitcoin is way more achievable than you might think. It's not about making some huge one-time purchase. It's about having a consistent, boring strategy.
So here's the playbook. It's pretty simple. First, find a good place to buy with low fees. Second, and this is the most critical part, automate it. Set up a recurring buy for whatever you can afford and then forget about it. That's dollar cost averaging. Third, get your assets in your own custody with a hardware wallet. Be your own bank. And finally, be smart about taxes from day one.
Your first year is going to be an emotional roller coaster. You'll make your first buy and feel like a genius. Then the price will dip and you'll feel like an idiot. But after a few months, you'll stop checking the price all the time, and saving just becomes a habit. And then one day, maybe around week 52, you'll hit it. The real victory isn't just a 0.1 target. It's the discipline of consistent saving you built to get there. That's a skill that'll help you for life.
Okay, now we have to be honest and talk about the risks. This is not some guaranteed path to wealth. Holding Bitcoin requires a really strong stomach, and there are very, very intelligent people out there who believe it's all fundamentally worthless.
This right here, this is the real test. I want you to imagine this. You've worked hard, you've saved up, and you watch $5,000 of your money just evaporate in a few months. It's psychologically brutal. If you don't think you can handle seeing your investment cut in half without panic selling, this is probably not the asset for you.
And beyond just the wild price swings, there are fundamental critiques. This is a quote from Nassim Taleb, a brilliant thinker on risk. He argues that because Bitcoin produces no income and has no real anchor to economic reality, its rational value is zero. That's a critique you have to take seriously.
And there are other legit concerns to think about. Will Bitcoin ever truly break away from the stock market? What about the long-term threat from quantum computing? And maybe the most important risk of all, are you really prepared for the responsibility of being your own bank? Because if you lose your password, your seed phrase, there is no one to call. Your money is just gone forever.
So after weighing all of it, the psychology, the math, the very, very real risks, you're left with a single question. And this question is really what should frame your decision about the future.
This is the question you have to answer for yourself. 5 years from now, what's going to bother you more? What is the greater regret? The risk of participating and having to endure all that volatility? Or the risk of just sitting on the sidelines and potentially missing out entirely?